Welcome to Theme Weavers, your weekly wisdom for weaving yoga themes into your classes to inspire your students. We're your hosts, Heidi
and Farron.
Welcome to episode 22 of Theme Weavers. Can you remember the last time you were totally focused and immersed in one activity? Whether something creative like painting or playing an instrument, or something physical like dancing or running, your mind was still except for that one thing. This kind of state of total focus is a peaceful feeling. This, in its essence, is dharana, the total concentration of the mind. So yes, you guessed it. Today we are going to talk about dharana and also dhyana. The difference between dharana and dhyana can be a bit confusing, and we will get into that for you today. But very quickly, dharana is the active focusing and concentration of one point, like I just mentioned. And dhyana is a state of mind where your focus is maintained or absorbed in the point of focus itself. We will get much more into these two topics, limbs 6 and 7 of the 8-limb path, in our episode today. If you don't know what dharana or dhyana are, or you want to learn about how to weave these teachings through your classes, then listen up. In case this is the first episode you're listening to, please check out episode 2 of the Theme Weavers podcast for details and background on the structure of how and why to weave themes throughout your yoga classes. If you choose to use today's teaching on dharana or dhyana as your theme while using the gift of our inspo sheet, then please find a way to turn our voices into yours. Make this theme authentic to you specifically.
Thank you, Heidi. And yeah, we're going to get into the topic of the teachings of both Dharana and Dhyana. And so we're saying them like so carefully today, by the way, because we looked up the pronunciations. And in Sanskrit, a little mini Sanskrit lesson for you, there are A's that are sound like short A's, which makes the sound like an namaste. And then there's the long A sound, which is an A usually with a bar over it, like a horizontal line on the top of the A. And that is the drawn out A sound. So it's an ah. So dharana, which is how I used to say it, the ending A actually has the bar over it. So it's dharana, dharana. And then dhyana. So the second A has the and the last A is the short A. So it's dhyana.
Thank you, because it's really important that we pay attention to these things because it's more proper and caring for the original language that it comes from. So I appreciate when we take the time to really pause and think about how we're choosing to use our words and our pronunciations. Yeah. I almost said our emphasis instead of emphasis to be funny, but I did it anyway.
Yeah, it's great. And it's like, if you mess up these things, like it's not the end of the world, but as long as you have that intention of like trying to honor the original language, then, things happen. We'll probably say it wrong a couple times throughout, but yeah, let's try. But cool. So Dharana and Dhyana, which are two essential components of the path of meditation, are outlined in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. We put these two topics together for today's episode because we want our themes to be things that students can tangibly practice in class. And dharana is the physical practice that can lead to the received experience of dhyana. So it's not like you can just practice dhyana because it's actually the result of practicing dharana. So one leads to the other, and it would make sense for us to connect them together just in today's episode. Dharana, the sixth limb of yoga, translates to concentration or focused attention. It involves directing your awareness to a single point or object. You can think of this like focusing the mind's scattered rays into a laser-like beam. Dharana is beautifully depicted in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras in chapter 3, verse 1, where it is described as the binding of the mind to a single place, object, or idea.
This is like my new favorite thing to do, is to compare the difference in the different books. I find it really interesting. So mine, and just so you know, I'm using the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, a new edition translation and commentary with insights from the traditional commentators by Edwin F. Bryant is the version I'm using. What are you using?
I am using the Tantra of the Yoga Sutras, Essential Wisdom for Living with Awareness and Grace by Alan Finger.
Lovely. So what does yours say?
Dharana is the act of focusing our conscious awareness on one point, whether it be a physical object, an abstract form or idea, or simply the awareness of Jivatman itself.
Oh, wow. That's a lot more. Mine just says concentration is the fixing of the mind in one place. But then it goes on and has like 2 pages, 3 pages of commentary based on it too.
Dhyana, or effortless concentration, is when dharana becomes an effortless flow of continual concentration on that point. It is when the mind's constant stream of arising thoughts flow effortlessly toward that point of focus.
So again, yours has a lot more than mine. Mine just says meditation is the one pointedness of the mind on one image. And then it has like 4 pages of teaching about it. But what I think is really interesting, in my translation, it has an M at the end. It's DHYA with the line NAM.
I see that. I see that in my other book that I have. It says Dhyanam.
Yeah, Dhyanam. Yep, in English, we're calling it Dhyana.
Yeah, we leave off the M. I'm not sure why. I think that's a grammatical thing in Sanskrit, but I haven't learned Sanskrit grammar. I've just learned like basic pronunciation and alphabet.
That's really
My credentials are not that high.
Yeah, no. Interesting. So if you're listening and you have more knowledge than we do, I would love to geek out on that. So let us know.
Yeah. And I'm also reading from another translation too. And it says, Dharana is the binding of the mind to one place, object, or idea. And dhyana is the continuous flow of cognition toward that object. So yeah, it's way shorter.
Which book is that one?
That is the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali by Sri Swami Satchitananda.
All right, cool. Anyway, it's always good to consult the official texts.
So as we just said, dhyana translates to meditation or uninterrupted contemplation. It signifies the effortless flow of attention towards a chosen focal point, dharana, where the subject and object merge into one. Patanjali talks about dhyana in Sutra 3.2. Meditation is the uninterrupted flow of the mind towards that one point. So don't forget, in order to get to these 6th and 7th limbs, you have already practiced limbs 1 through 5 as they all build upon each other. So now when we get to dharana and dhyana, you may feel like these two concepts seem similar, but they have distinct characteristics. One way to think of that is dharana is like holding a magnifying glass steady, focusing on a single point. And in contrast, dhyana is the state where the magnifying glass vanishes and you become one with a focused object, losing the awareness of the separation. In our lives today, the relevance of dharana and dhyana is undeniable, although many of us have resistance to it. We live in an era of constant distractions, like we always talk about, with our minds pulled in so many directions. And problems like stress, anxiety, and the feeling of being overwhelmed often stem from this constant mental chatter. Dharana offers a solution by honing the ability to concentrate on a single point, a breath, a mantra, or an image. You learn to manage your scattered thoughts. This practice is especially helpful when faced with tasks that demand undivided attention, such as work, study, or even managing your daily chores. However, the challenge here is our mind's tendency to wander. This happens to me all the time in Shavasana. I'm like, okay, we're here, I'm breathing, and nope, there goes my mind.
It happened to me today. I took a move and meditate class, and I was like in it for the move. And then the meditate, I was in it for the first half, where like we got through the breath, and then you notice like the energy the breath leaves behind. But then she brought us into mantra, and I had like a mantra going in my head that was totally different than what she offered. So then my brain was going like singing songs, and like, it was just not at all present. And I was like, I just was in such a deep meditation. I completely lost it because I was so taken out by the multiple thoughts that were going in, because it took me out of the experience of like being one with what was. It was really interesting.
Yeah, it's like you were already in your like one pointed focus, and then you had something else coming in that was like, nope, now it's a 2-pointed focus, and now there's all the focuses.
Exactly.
Well, cool. In a world where multitasking can often be glorified, focusing on one thing at a time can be really challenging. So patience and practice are keys to mastering dharana. As you progress to dhyana, the benefits deepen. In the meditative state of dhyana, the mind transcends the distractions of the external world, allowing for profound insights and inner peace. This practice is particularly relevant in addressing modern issues like digital addiction, information overload, and the need for inner clarity. But the challenge lies in maintaining this state of meditation amidst the demands of our fast paced lives. Consistency and a commitment to inner reflection are essential.
I love it. And this was so much information, Farron. And for me personally, the challenges can be a real struggle, like I just said. And I know I talk about this a lot, but I have ADHD. And for me to stay focused can be really challenging, especially when there's so many other things that need to be done or that are shiny and pretty and taking my attention away. But other times, I get so deeply entrenched in my focus that nothing can pull me out of it. I like to think about those times as my passion flow states, we'll call them. So for example, if I'm playing music, I just get totally lost in time. I'm completely with this experience of creation and nothing is going to take me out of it. And all of a sudden I look and I'm like, crap, I'm like 2 hours late for something. But the fact that practicing dharana and dhyana are hard means just that. Like it reinforces the fact that it's a practice, right? We're reinforcing the fact that this is a practice. You don't have to get it perfect. You don't have to be good at it every time. It's a practice for us to explore. And the really cool part, though, is that by practicing, you actually get some pretty amazing results. So through dharana, you sharpen your focus, you become more efficient and effective in your daily life. And dhyana, on the other hand, helps you see the inner wisdom that you already have within you that you may have lost connection to, which leads to a deeper understanding of yourself and your surroundings. I want to just pause for a split second because I was listening to, did you ever listen to the Mel Robbins podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was an episode, I don't know, maybe it came out like a week or two or a month ago. I don't know. Well, it was about ADHD and she had this doctor from McLean Hospital on. And I just sort of had my jaw to the ground because she said something really interesting, or the doctor said something really interesting. And both myself and my son have ADHD. And they're talking about how depending on the culture and society that you're in, ADHD can be a huge burden or it can be a tremendous blessing. Right? So it's a burden when you're expected to sit in school, keep your mouth shut, to sit still, to only do what's being presented to you, and to sit within those, the deep, the constraints, the walls of what's expected. Versus in some societies, you're celebrated for being passionate, for being creative, for coming up with these huge ideas and finding innovative ways to come up with them. And you become this change maker. And an ADHD person can be that change maker, but when you're stuck within the constraints of what society expects you to be, you're then a bad kid. And my husband listens to Dax Shepard's podcast all the time. I've told you this. He's one of the top 1% listeners of his podcast, which is probably not his regular demographics of the podcast listeners. But my husband, I was talking to him about this. He said that Dax talks about this a lot, how some of the greatest minds in our world and leaders of giant companies all struggle from neurodivergent are blessed with neurodivergence, and how also our prison system is full of neurodivergent people, and you can go either path, whether you're seen as a problem when you're younger because of your neurodivergence, or if you're celebrated, will depend on the path that you end up walking. And I have no idea where I got here, but I just thought it was really interesting to share.
Yeah, no, I like it. I don't know. I don't have ADHD, but I have friends who have it. Obviously, you, Heidi. But I think with ADHD, it's both sometimes you're very distractible, but then other times you're deep in it and you're not able to even be pulled out of anything by distraction. So it's it's a double-edged sword.
It's really interesting though, because a lot of people don't know that. They think if you're able to focus so hard on one thing and be so deeply entrenched in it, then you're just choosing not to work hard at the other areas that you're not focusing on. But our brain is so interesting the way that it works.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But I sometimes think about imagining a life where you can switch from scattered distractions to laser focused attention whenever you want, and where you can find moments of profound inner peace amidst life's chaos. And dharana and dhyana offer you this pretty awesome path.
Yeah. So it's you're either really, 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 really great at meditation, or you're not able to do it as a person with ADHD. Is that right?
Yeah, it's kind of all or nothing, which is sort of my personality in general. Like I am like in it, or I want nothing to do with it, and I can't get my focus or attention whatsoever. And that's how I am with almost everything. But it's the same with meditation, and it's not consistent. And I can be within one meditation practice, fully in it, and then fully out of it, and like there's no middle ground.
Yeah, that's so interesting, but it's cool.
Yeah, thanks.
This is great, Heidi. So we shared with our students what the teaching is, some of the challenges of practicing both Dharana and Dhyana, as well as the benefits. So now that they are in practice, how do we weave it through the class to really drive the teaching home and connect it? One way to do this is by teaching a class that is focused truly just on one single point of focus. For example, the whole class, you keep reminding your students to notice the sensation of their big toe on the ground. Like literally, that's the only body part you focus on, just the big toe on the ground. Or maybe you teach briefly about drishti, visual focus, and the entire class you just remind the students to come back to their drishti, to notice the one thing that they are putting all their attention on. Or you can split the class. Half is movement with one physical point of focus, and the second half of class is a truly silent meditation. Maybe you give each person a candle and they stare at the flame, and halfway through you cue them to try to notice that there's no separation between themselves and the flame. That's how I would weave it through class. Heidi, do you want to share some additional resources to deepen our understanding and practice of Dharana and Dhyana?
Obviously, I do. And clearly, you can download our inspo sheet found at themeweaversyoga.com/episode 22, where we list all of these out for you. On that sheet, as always, we'll include some inspirational quotes that remind us of the practice of Dharana and Dhyana, some songs that bring the theme to life, as well as mantras, mudras, specific pranayama, postures, and meditation to weave into your class. Okay, so let's talk about peak pose. I always love when we have this conversation. So this one is kind of mean and a bit more of a yin pose. Nobody says it has to be based on a vinyasa or a power class, right? But do you ever do broken toe pose?
I don't even know what that is, and it sounds like I don't want to do it.
As a runner, it's like such an important pose. It's basically when you're kneeling on your shins, but instead of being on the shoelace side of your feet, you tuck your toes under, so you're in dorsiflexion, and you like reach back and scoop each of your 5 toes out. So each of the 5 toes is in full extension.
Oh, I do that all the time.
Yeah. Okay. I want to cry every time I'm in it. Like, unless I'm like leaning forward with my hands on blocks. Like the fascia on the bottom of my feet hurts so bad.
Oh, I love that pose.
What?
Like, I didn't know it was called broken toe pose, and I think we need to rename it because that just sounds scary. But like, yeah, no, I love that. I do it all the time. And then I see students who are like uncomfortable in it, and I'm like, okay, you can untuck your toes if you want.
No,
but I love
it's so hard. It's such a tough pose for me, and I want to just like leave it as soon as I'm in it. I can't believe you love it. It's because your feet are younger than mine.
Well, it could be that. I don't know. Because I'm a runner and I need the stretch. I need the stretch of the arches of my feet and the toes. Like I love it.
I don't know, it like burns my feet. And I'm fine with extending my toes. I don't know. There's something about it just doesn't like my body, or my body doesn't like it. Maybe it's a name. Maybe I should call it happy toe pose and then I'll start to like it. But what if we did that as a peak pose? And I guess this isn't a big deal for you though, if it doesn't hurt. Like I was trying to pick a pose that is like viscerally uncomfortable. And
oh my gosh, I just looked it up. I looked up broken toe pose and someone else has it listed as screaming toe pose.
Yeah. So can you be in screaming toe pose and keep your focus on the sensation of your big toes on the ground and how you might be pulled away from that focus because you're like, get me out of here. But like, can you be pulled away and then keep coming back and keep coming back? And then maybe eventually you float like over that feeling and you're just in it. You're in it in happy toe pose. Would you?
Okay. I'm trying to relate, but yeah. Okay.
Okay. What would you do?
Pose that I don't like or that I feel uncomfortable in.
Yeah. What are you trying to like avoid in your practice?
I don't know. I like all of them.
Come on. You like every single yoga pose? There's nothing that's hard for you physically or emotionally to be in? You're lying. No.
You know what? You know why? Because the poses that I used to hate and feel really uncomfortable in, I have focused so much this year on, this 2023, this past year.
Well, I was like, it's literally been a month of 2024. You focused the whole year, but you're talking last year.
Yeah, last year. So last year I focused on just doing the poses that I hated, like chair pose holds. I can hold chair pose for like 5 minutes now, and I'm just like, yep, this is what we do now. And boat pose, I used to freaking hate boat pose Navasana. And I do it so much now in all of my classes that I'm just like, this is what we're doing. It's fine. And other people I can still see on their face, they're like grimacing, like, get us out of here. But I'm just like, nope, we're holding boat forever. So I think it's because I focused on what I don't like.
I'm like making that face right now. Like, you talking about this is making me make that face. I'm like looking at you, like with a snarl. Like, I live in Massachusetts and I'm not in your class.
Yeah. But see, a lot of my students have gotten stronger because I've been focusing on these specific poses that really burn and hurt. And so they have also seen the benefits.
Are you able to then bring that back though to like the strength of the inner? Like how you can have a single point of focus on staying through those harder things and not making it about tapas, but being about connecting yourself deeper to the things that you might not want to be doing, like being fully in it. So eventually you can see that, like, you are that thing.
Yeah, I can see that. And also I have done the like a meditation at the end focusing on a flame. I'll bring like little tea light candles and I'll stack yoga blocks in front of everybody and have them just sit and have their little tea lights lit. And we've done that. And I really like that practice.
I love that. And I'm picturing you doing it now at the end of your like lift and flow class or pump and flow, whatever it's called, where you're like sweating like buckets of nastiness and you're like, let's all sit now and stare at a flame. I love that. I love it.
Okay. So after this practice is over, whether you use broken or screaming toe pose or whatever it may be.
I believe it's happy toe pose. Happy toe.
Okay, we're calling it happy toe pose now. Mm-hmm. Then you want to wrap up your class and help your students practice this even off of their mats. So you can tell them, as you step off of your yoga mat, carry with you the understanding that these practices are not just confined to this space, but can be integrated into your everyday life. Remember, when we focus the mind intensely into one point, the rest of the mind tends to quiet down. When we practice concentration like this, there's less room for other thoughts, memories, and planning that the mind tends to otherwise be busy with. This then leaves us the space to explore our meditation practice with an even deeper concentration of the mind so that we can learn more about ourselves and separate illusion from reality.
Whoa.
Did that give you the chills?
Totally. That or my acai bowl I just finished eating. I don't know which.
May your practice of Dharana and Dhyana lead you to a life filled with clarity, presence, and profound inner wisdom.
That's beautiful, Farron. So now go to our website, themeweaversyoga.com/episode22. The link is also found in the show notes, and request the inspo sheet for Dharana and Dhyana to help you bring this theme alive in your own voice, in your own practice and teaching. And please reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, email, wherever you want, and let us know how it lands. We're here to support you, fellow yoga teacher, in your class preparation and delivery. So let us know how we can be of the most support. Tune in next week, please, for another episode of Theme Weavers, where we will help you feel prepared to go on and inspire your students in your next class. If you're unsure on the structure of how to weave your themes throughout the class, please feel free to go back and listen to episode 2, Why Weave? The importance of threading intention into your yoga for background and inspiration. Until next time, Farron.
We weave you in peace.